Thanks so much for tuning into Talking Point. I'm your host, Niraj Shah, and the Talking Point today are the views of a company which is suddenly sprung up on the notice boards by announcing their foray into the PLI scheme winners. They have announced a major global tie-up as well. And looking at the size of the company currently, or looking at the revenues of the company currently, the targets that they have set out for themselves meet the whole old management adage of big, hairy, audacious goals. Optimus Infra is the company I'm talking about. And the MD of the company, Mr. Gururaj, joins us right now to talk about what is Optimus all about, what are their goals, how do they plan to achieve it, and what are the organizational structural changes that they would do in order to reach the size that they have spoken about, 38,000 crores over the next 5 years. Did I get it right, Mr. Gururaj?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Niraj, for the opportunity.
Oh, the pleasure is ours. So can you actually, before we get down to the nuts and bolts of what you plan to do or what have you already done, can you tell us a bit about what is Optimus Infra all about? What is the current nature of the business? How did you start off? And what is the structure of the company, if you will? Is it one listed entity or are there subsidiaries? Give us some lowdown about Optimus.
So I'm the MD of Optimus Electronics, and the holding company of Optimus Electronics is Optimus Infracom Limited. Optimus in Optimus Infracom, which is the holding company, 75% roughly is held by the promoters, and roughly 25% or so by the public, and so that's broadly the structure. It's a listed company, Optimus Infracom, and Optimus Electronics is a 100% subsidiary of Optimus Infracom. So that's broadly the structure of this entity right now, with Wistron being a strategic partner in this company right now. Earlier, Wistron did have a 20% equity, and then we'll see how that goes in future.
Okay, so just trying to understand the listed entities, Optimus Infra. Within that, you have Optimus Electronics, of which you are the MD. Winstrom has a partnership with Optimus Electronics, and I presume the PLI schemes that have been won thus far, I believe one or two, and please correct me, have been won under Optimus Electronics, the subsidiary.
I couldn't get you, but I think your question was regarding PLI. Yes, we have won the PLI. For some reason you're breaking up, Niraj, but anyway, your question was regarding PLI, right? And we have won the Optimus Electronics has won the PLI for two sectors. One is the mobile phone, and also for the the IT hardware sector. Now, I must tell you here that Optimus Electronics is not new to mobile manufacturing. Optimus Electronics had in the 2016 timeframe manufactured mobile phones for a number of leading companies such as HTC, LG, BlackBerry, and very reputed global companies. And this is kind of the coming of PLI and the coming of the government wanting to create Indian champions has given a new fresh wave of possibility of growth for Optimus Electronics. And importantly, the global environment today is given whatever, we don't want to get to the politics of things, but the global business scenario, a lot of companies have started manufacturing in India. So the business dynamics today are extremely favorable to electronics manufacturing in India.
Yes, they sure are. Okay, excuse me for breaking up, but if you can hear me now, what I was trying to get at was two questions. One, the PLI, which I presume has been won under Optimus Electronics, and I presume the JV with Winstrom is also with Optimus Electronics, the subsidiary of the listed entity. Am I getting it correct?
That's right. That's right. The PLI has been won already in two areas: mobiles and IT hardware. And the strategic partnership is with Optimus Electronics.
Okay.
Yes.
Incidentally, may I ask, there is this talk of large proposals received for the white goods PLI. Have you been an applicant there too?
Can you repeat that again? For some reason, you're breaking up. But what was your question again?
The white goods PLI, have you made an application there too?
Yes, we will be applying for, one of our products, we can talk further. We will not be just in the mobile phone or in the IT hardware space. Over a period of time, we are looking to be in hearables and wearables. We are already there. We will be in the, for example, the EV segment, for example, IoT and so on, and telecom gear. So we have, we will be applying, and we are likely to, succeed in winning the PLI, getting the PLI award in those spaces as well.
Okay. What are the current range of products, and what do you aim to reach out to in terms of product manufacturing?
Pardon?
What are the current range of products, and what are the future products in the pipeline?
Yeah, so I think we will start with, we've already started with hearables and wearables. And that, we had announced a few days back our partnership with Noise, which is an Indian design, for Indian design in Indian manufacturing. And so we've already partnered with Noise for hearables and wearables. Now we have partnered with Wistron, for getting in global manufacturing and, practices and processes in place. And we, for segments such as mobiles and IT hardware, including laptops and so on, we are in, discussions with various customers across the world. And hopefully in the coming months, we will be able to close some of these deals. So we will be in multiple segments, in a phased manner over the next 1 to 2 years.
Okay. Mr. Gururaj, what is the nature of your partnership with Wistron? And do they have any stake in the in Optimus Electronics?
So at this point of time, it is a strategic partnership. They don't have an equity at this point of time, in Optimus Electronics. But the key ingredients of the partnership is, one, we will do joint business development. For customers coming from our side, or Wistron may have some customers who want to manufacture with us. That's one. Second is, to create world-class practices in India, like I've already said. The third is cross-sharing of resources. For example, we may bring in resources from different parts of the world through the global presence of Wistron to help us create a world-class manufacturing entity. The next is to get in, smart manufacturing into India over a period of time, as we go forward. And finally, we want to cater to both the domestic and the exports out of this relationship. So these are the key ingredients, of what we would like to do with Wistron. And I would like to stress here that, we are the only Indian PLI winner with a global partner at this point of time. And I think, I think the benefits of this relationship, both the customers and the country and everybody will see, in the coming months and years.
Okay. Can you talk a bit about the scale? Because your release speaks about a number of 38,000 crores. Even if FY21 was a COVID impacted year, unless I'm wrong, the revenue from operations was about 180 crores. So from that, at least on the BSE, that's the number that I got. Now, from that number to the numbers that you've spoken about in the release, it's a stratospheric uptick. Can you talk a bit about that, and what scale you are at, and what is the progression on the scale of operations over the next 2-3 years?
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, it is from, so like I said, there was an assembly plant already in place, of Optimus Electronics, and already 14 million phones had been manufactured out of that facility. So it's not that, no volume has happened out of that. The difference now is we are also putting in the phased manufacturing program of the Government of India, and given the PLI benefit also, we are also putting in the context of electronics SMT lines and so on, to be able to do both CKD activity also out of India. But to your question that is this yeah, I mean, you're right. So you look at other electronics companies in the country, without naming them, if both large scale Indian EMSs as well as multinational MNCs, as far as I know, have scaled up enormously in the last 1 year, or even I would say 9 months. Just after the second wave, I've seen MSMEs in Bangalore, where I live, who have just in 8-9 months doubled revenues. So this is not something unique to Optimus Electronics alone. It's the very opportunity that India has, and so it is. It is applying to all other companies are scaling up at the same level. It is not just Optimus, and I think we will also do the same thing, given, like I said, the geopolitical situation, the need for India to be there, and I think more importantly, people are coming to this country because of the skill availability and so on.
So, Mr. Gururaj, I'm not doubting your assertions. What I'm just trying to understand is how would you do this? One is winning customers, and we'll talk about that. But first, let's start internally. What is the current state of operations? How do you scale it up to reach those numbers of 38,000 crores? Target as they are, and you might be a few thousand crores here and there, understandable. But how do you plan to reach those numbers? And how do you
I think
all of those operations?
There is, in manufacturing, we call it man, machine, method, money, right? So 4 M's of what you need to grow in a business. So one is for the method part, which is the processes and systems. That's what the partnership with Wistron will bring in, right? The next is manpower. So, for example, I have the whole idea of Optimus is to have a world-class Indian company. And for example, I have led leading multinational companies like Flextronics and Wistron and so on. And it was my dream, and also the dream of the promoters of Optimus, that we should bring in people with the global experience. So that's how I joined Optimus, because our dreams matched. So that is the first step. Me coming from a global background, I was in the US before, headed multinational companies before, and now I'm in an Indian company. And many of the people we have hired of late, are all from multinational companies. So, and that's our plan, to get the people who are very familiar with working with different, cultures and so on. So that is regarding the people. The third is, the customers, which is actually number one, right? That is the most important thing. Now, given the geopolitical situation again, and we have seen after our announcements, one thing we have seen, Niraj, and this is not to boast, and hopefully, God willing, we will be able to deliver to the expectations, and I think we are confident we will, that the customers have started calling us, very reputed customers as well. So I think we've seen after the announcement that we've seen a quantum shift, in the interest level, of customers in us. So we believe that as we cater to the processes, systems, quality expectations, and the manpower capability and so on, customers, we will be able to keep the customer satisfied. And so I think the key ingredients is what I talked about, man, method, money. So, and machines, right? Machines. So we have, we are now setting up, for example, assembly line was already there, and we have brought state-of-the-art SMT lines, and they are now being set up in Noida. So that takes the fifth M, the machines part of it. So in terms of infrastructure, people, and customers, right, we are beginning to see traction. And like I said, we feel quite good that there's a lot of interest, and I think we are building the team now to cater to this expectation.
I'll come to the customers part in a moment, Mr. Gururaj. What about the funding of the whole infrastructure as well as the manpower? Again, my question stems from the numbers that I've seen for FY21. How do you fund the operations and the manpower to reach scales forget 5 years out, even 2 years out, if you intend to reach halfway, how do you propose to fund all of that?
So I think there are some. We are already beginning to see, interest from investors to invest in us, and because of the potential. Let me just say this in a generic way first, and then come to us. I have been in the part of this electronics manufacturing journey. When I was heading Flex, which manufactured the first feature phone in India in 2004, to I was MD of also the company which manufactured the most advanced smartphone of the world at Wistron. Only in the last 1 year have I seen private equity people, venture capitalists calling me and saying that, Gururaj, we want to invest in EMS companies. So for the first time in the last 18 years or 17, 16 years, I'm beginning to see investors, calling upon EMS companies to invest. So to answer your question, I think there is the appetite for investing in EMS or electronics manufacturing has built up quite considerably, and I think that will help us to get some funding besides the other sources of funding, as banks and other ways, and our own money. We will put all those pieces together to fund the group.
Okay, so I presume at some point of time, and I don't want to get answers from you which violate any terms of corporate governance, but at some point of time in the next 6 months or next 12 months, you would probably look to sell some stake to investors through an equity offering or otherwise in order to raise capital for funding your operations.
Again, Niraj, you broke up.
I was asking about fundraising. You would need to do some fundraising in the next 6 months, right?
I think your question is about fundraising, how it's going to happen. Is that your question? Yeah. So I think for the machines and so on, which we're planning over the next 1 year and so on, they are already here. The number of machines we need for the next 1 year are already here, and I think we have in place how we are going to fund it. So which is the most capex intensive, right? Which is the machines. So I think at least for the next 1 year we've got that covered. And I think as we ramp up and start showing performance and start building revenues and start building credibility in terms of delivering to the customer, like I said a few minutes ago, we are already seeing many investors talking to us and saying that in discussion with us to see what can be done, how we can work together. So this is, and again, I want to repeat, this is not unique to Optimus Electronics. For those who are familiar with the electronics manufacturing space, a lot of MSMEs in India, even multinational, they have seen the quantum growth, and Indian MSMEs are getting the funding also, to match this growth. So this story is not unique to Optimus. So, and because that's the flavor of the day, right? Electronics manufacturing, including the Prime Minister in a Red Fort speech talking so much about electronics manufacturing. It starts right from the Prime Minister.
Sure. So does it start showing in your numbers in FY22, Mr. Gururaj?
I would believe so, yes. Yes. We will see numbers in financial year 22. I think we're quite confident that we will. And like I said, because of the reasons that I've already talked about, a few times. Sure. And so I think we will see numbers in financial year 22.
Are you at a liberty to give us some color about your customers?
I wish I was, but Niraj, we are all bound by non-disclosure agreements, and unfortunately, I cannot reveal the names because they won't want it, and it would be violation of the non-disclosure agreement. But I think all I can say is many of these customers are very credible and reputed.
What are the kind of debt levels that you might be at, and would you need to do a mix of debt and equity to raise capital for funding your investments?
I think we will have to wait and see. We will monitor the situation as we go forward. We will see how the customers come in, what's the kind of pricing they give us, what kind of the numbers we are looking at, and make those decisions as we move forward. But do we have a definite plan at this point of time? Debt, equity, we will watch and see, and depending on how things go, we will decide what's the best way forward.
Okay. By hiring you, or by having you heading Optimus Electronics and having some key managerial personnel, you probably solving the pickle of having the right people to manage operations. At the group level or at the listed entity level, is there thought of getting or strengthening the board of the company by getting some marquee names as well? Because that will only give more confidence to the investor fraternity.
Very smart question, Niraj. That's what I would expect from a smart man like you. Yes, there is a possibility that we will get, we would like to get some reputed people on the board who will, add value and, to us in terms of their experience and their knowledge. And also, who will also bring in the credibility to the organization. So we have some names in mind, some people that we want to get in at the board level, and we are talking to them right now. But to your question, yes, will we broaden the whole idea is, not to make this look like a, local company with local thinking and local everything. This, it has to be a kind of an Indian multinational kind of flavor, starting from the board level to customers to the workforce. Okay. So yes, I mean, to answer your question, we are having some discussions with very reputed names in the country, in this regard.
Okay. One final question, Mr. Gururaj. Does this partnership with Wistron give you enough in terms of capabilities in a global partner, or do you reckon you will probably do more of such as well?
No. I think at this point of time, there's no other thought of any other partner. I myself have been MD of Wistron earlier, if you know my background. I know the capabilities, the culture, the values, the processes of Wistron, and I think if you can, learn from them and put all that in place in our factory, I think that would be a great step forward for India. And I think the underlying factor, I think one thing I didn't mention right from the beginning is we are extremely committed to the Prime Minister's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and that's what drives us, from morning to evening. And I think given the depth and the abilities at Wistron, and of which I have been a part earlier, I think that's more than enough. I mean, we are not looking at more partnerships. Wistron, we believe, will get us all the support, and we have an outstanding relationship with Wistron for over 6 years. And I myself have been an ex-employee.
Yeah. I have one final question, Mr. Gururaj, and that is because the listed entity is Wistron Infra, and Wistron Electronics, the one which is driving, the one that you are driving ahead, is not a listed entity, but a subsidiary, I presume 100% subsidiary as of now. Now, the part of the country that you live in, ESOPs, giving stakes to key managerial people as well as partnerships is a norm. I would want to understand from you whether you believe that Wistron, or rather Optimus Electronics, would continue to remain a large, near 100% subsidiary, or are things on course, for the right reasons, of course, for this stake that the parent holds in the subsidiary to reduce significantly over a period of the next 2-3 years?
Again, is your question that, will we give ESOPs and all that to our employees? Is that your question?
ESOPs as well as stake sales to strategic partners. How much of a dilution will happen in the holding of the parent?
So I think one is we are very clear, and the promoters are very clear that end of the day, we don't want employees to feel like employees. They have to feel like owners. And, that's where you give in your best, right? I mean, every employee in this company, especially the top management, has to feel, that this is your company. So yes, I mean, there is a plan, for the key leaders of the company, the top managers, the senior managers, to get ESOPs and so on. But, does that lead to significant dilution of the equity? I don't think so. But to the next question, and that is, will we dilute equity substantially as we go forward to strategic partners? We just have to wait and see what is the kind of level of funding we will need And like to your earlier question, debt and equity content and all that stuff, these are all calls we will take, as we go along. But at this point of time, we are quite comfortable with our growth process, and we would not have signed up with Wistron, unless we felt that we could have managed the financial wherewithals. We don't want to let down Wistron. We don't want to let down the country. We don't want to, so I think we feel quite confident that we'll be able to manage the financial part.
Okay. Mr. Gururaj, thank you so much for spending the time and talking to us. It was lovely to understand some bit of your company, and we look forward to more conversations as we move along through the year.
Thank you, Niraj. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure was ours. Viewers, thanks.
Okay, all the best. Thanks.